So welcome everybody. My name is Liesel Erasmus. I am the creative and content director for Upskill Academy. So I'm the person that builds all the courses. Just to give you some experience or some of my background and as to why I have a lot of experience in AARTO. Before I started working at Upskill Academy, for about 9 years, I was working as a licensing manager, vehicle licensing manager, as well as a sales manager for a company that deals with traffic fine management. So I have a lot of history and understand the past 9 years of what AARTO has been going through. All the times AARTO has been basically said that AARTO is going to start and be implemented, and then was another year and another year and another year. So I do understand what AARTO has meant for everybody over the past couple of years, and now that it's finally here, I think a lot of us are still thinking that it's not going to happen, but it definitely is now here to stay, and it is going to be implemented. So that is just a bit of my background as to where I am coming from. And yes, I'm going to switch my video off now and just going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see my screen clearly?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. So AARTO, for those of you that do not know what AARTO stands for, AARTO stands for the Administrative Adjudication of Road Traffic Offences Act, and it's Act 46 of 1998. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly, if I can just ask if you do have your microphone on, just to mute it. For me, so that we can just make sure we don't hear the background noises. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so AARTO, the Act was piloted in Tshwane in 2008 and in Johannesburg in February of 2009. Now, the Act outlines the adjudication process in case of infringement, representations, courtesy letters, and enforcement orders for the failure to comply with these requirements. And the Act also outlines the processes relating to the demerit point system. Okay, so AARTO is basically being implemented to outline, and the Act basically outlines everything that AARTO stands for. Okay, now with this webinar is meant as an introduction to the understanding of AARTO and how it will be implemented and the implications of non-compliance. We will cover what AARTO is, the overview of the adjudication process, the demerit point system, and then I will also take you through the planned phased implementation process over the next year. And we will also discuss the recommended actions for companies to prepare for AARTO. Now, we do have comprehensive e-learning courses available for AARTO, which I will tell you about at the end of the webinar. If you do at any time during the webinar have questions relating to AARTO specifically or about our courses, you are more than welcome to make a note of it in the chat box, to ask your question in the chat box, or to just make a note of it and we will answer and address them in the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. Now, the objectives of AARTO is to raise compliance with laws regulating road traffic and to promote road safety. It's also to ensure the payment of penalties, which we know as fines, and to allow alleged offenders to make representations. It's been implemented to establish a procedure for the effective and expeditious adjudication of infringements with the purposes of encouraging compliance with the national and provincial laws and alleviating the burden of the courts of trying offenders for infringements. Now, if you have any experience in traffic fine management, With the current traffic fine system that runs under the Criminal Procedure Act, you would understand the frustrations of managing traffic fines. Like, for example, you cannot obtain a list of your fines nationally at one place. You have to source them from the various websites like PayCity and Pay My Fines. And then if you do want to hand in a representation or do a redirection, it sometimes means that you would have to go to the various courts on different days, especially if you are in Cape Town, and go and sit there sometimes the whole day just to sort out or redirect 5 fines. This makes the management of traffic fines for companies extremely difficult and time consuming. So AARTO has been kind of implemented to alleviate that burden, not only on the courts, but I think it will alleviate the burden on companies as well and your traffic fine management. Okay, so another objective is to penalize drivers and operators who are guilty of infringements or offences through the imposition of demerit points, leading to the suspension and cancellation of driving licenses, professional driving permits, or operating cards. And then the last objective is to reward law-abiding behaviour by reducing demerit points if imposed infringements or offences are not committed over specific periods. So yes, I will cover this later. You can lose demerit points. It can be reduced, but it is quite a difficult process for that to happen. Okay, now if we look at the difference between AARTO and this Criminal Procedure Act, most fines across South Africa follow the Criminal Procedure Act at the current moment. Now that is where we know traffic fine starts off as a first notice, and then it escalates into a second notice, final notice, summons, and then the last status is a warrant. Now, once a fine is a warrant, your licensing will automatically be blocked under the current Criminal Procedure Act, and the proxy of your company then stands the risk of being arrested. So just to give you an example of that, I used to be at the previous company a proxy for one of the commercial banks in South Africa. And a couple of weeks ago, I did get a call from the traffic department to inform me that there are a couple of warrants against my name. And if the warrants are not paid before the Friday, they would come and arrest me, which was nice of them to give me a courtesy, but quite frightening, seeing that, you know, I could have spent the weekend in jail if it was not sorted. Okay. Now, AARTO, on the other side, is more of an administrative process that follows the adjudication procedure. Now, if a person is alleged to have committed an infringement under the AARTO Act, an authorized officer will issue an infringement notice to be served on the alleged offender. Now, it is important to know that the notice must specify the following information to be a legal notice. That is the particulars of the infringer, the details of the infringement, the payable penalty and applicable discounts, and then also the specified date before which the payment must be made. Now, all that information has to be on the infringement notice. Now, the adjudication process has 4 statuses. The first status is the infringement notice that is followed by a courtesy letter, enforcement order, and then lastly, a warrant. Now, it is very important that the person or administrator that manages your fines understand each one of these fine statuses, when they escalate, and what is allowed on each status. For example, you will only be able to nominate an infringement to a driver. Most of you will now know nomination, you will now know it as a redirection. So under AARTO, a redirection is seen as a nomination. So you will only be able to nominate the fine to the responsible driver if the infringement is, or if the fine is in the infringement notice status. If you don't, and the fine escalates, the demerit points will then be added to your proxy's driver's license, and he will then be held accountable for the traffic fine. It's also important to understand that if you do not exercise any of your rights in any of the statuses, each time the infringement escalates, more fees will be added. So you will pay more for the fine. I think most of you will know that on the infringement notice status, your fine will automatically be at a 50% discounted amount. And now, as soon as that escalates into a courtesy letter, your fine amount will then double. So then the full amount will become applicable, plus an additional courtesy letter fee. So it's very important to understand all that information on each status that you have. You also need to be very careful when submitting a representation that your reasons are valid and lawful, as a failed representation will also incur more fees. So I have a lot of companies that I deal with that does our training, that feel that they're going to just do a representation. If they do forget to nominate it within the first notice, they're just going to send in a representation. Yes, you can, but if it is not a legal reason and the representation fails, then you are actually just going to pay more money for the traffic fine. So this process and what you can do at each status, this is explained in detail in our courses, which I will discuss with you a bit later. But it is really, I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. The person that deals with your traffic fines on a day-to-day basis, that you make sure that they understand these steps clearly, the amount of days between each step, because that will really, if they do understand that, it will make the process and the management of your fines so much easier. Now, when we look at the demerit point system, it is important to note that all drivers and vehicles will start with 0 points. Yes, you heard me correctly. A vehicle can also be allocated points. All fines relating to the roadworthiness and the licensing of the vehicle will result in the points being added to the vehicle. Now, points issued can be anything between 1 to 6 points. It all depends on the type of fine. For example, a speeding fine where you go 5 kilometers above the speed limit might be 2 points, but a speeding fine where you go 40 kilometers or more above the speed limit will basically give you 5 or 6 points. So now the point threshold, or what I just want to add in here is on the new AARTO system, if you have registered on the AARTO system, you will already be able to see the estimated points that you would receive for traffic fines. So if you do receive an AARTO fine now, it will show you, it will indicate what the actual demerit point is. And one of our directors had a fine with 6 points on it already. So, one fine can give you 6 points, 3 fines can put you over the threshold. So the point threshold is 15 points. So you are allowed to receive up to 15 points. If you go over 15, it is an automatic suspension of your license. 3 or more suspensions of your license will then result in your license being cancelled, and you will then have to attend a rehabilitation program before you can reapply for your license. So there, it is very important that you understand exactly how points are issued, when you lose points, how the suspension of your license takes place, because you need to monitor that. When it comes to your drivers, you will also need to monitor your driver's points. If you have a driver that drives with a vehicle and you are not aware of the fact that the driver has lost his license or he has a suspended license, if the driver comes into an accident with your vehicle or has an accident with your vehicle, your insurance will not pay out the claim. because the vehicle's license or the driver's license has been suspended. So you need to implement a point system and really take care of monitoring your driver's points, as well as your vehicle's points, as well as your proxy's points. So those are three of the things that you really need to focus on when it comes to the demerit point system. Okay, now if you have read the latest articles in the news, you might have seen the headlines that AARTO is delayed until July 2022. This is not true. Okay, AARTO will be implemented in a phased approach, which has started already on the 1st of July 2021. Now, phase 1, which already started in July, will run until the end of September, and that includes the establishment of 7 service outlets, the enabling of the National Administration Traffic Information System, we all know it as eNaTIS or NaTIS, to collect AARTO payments at the collecting agents, allowing elective options to be processed in infringement agencies and service outlets, and they are going to launch communication and education awareness campaigns. So that is phase 1, and that has started the 1st of July and will run until the end of September. Now, phase 2 runs from October this year, so from the 1st of October until the end of December, and that includes the coming online of 67 local and metropolitan municipal areas proclaimed for the AARTO rollout. So that will be your metropolitan areas in the Western Cape, in Durban, all over across South Africa. Your metropolitan and municipal areas will come alive with AARTO. So it won't only be Johannesburg and Tshwane where you will receive AARTO fines, then those other provinces will be included. The establishment of more than 18 service outlets will also happen during this phase. And the adjudication process will then come online in all the provinces, and the appeals tribunal will also come into full operation. I just want to just mention to all the people that have joined late, we will be sharing a link to the replay of this webinar if you have missed some of the slides, okay? So phase 3 runs from January next year until the end of June. And this is the phase where the remaining 144 local municipal areas proclaimed for AARTO rollout will then come online. So then by the end of phase 3, the whole of South Africa will be on the new AARTO system and the AARTO traffic fine system. So phase 4 then starts on the 1st of July next year, 2022, and this is the phase that we're all worried about. Now, this phase includes the points demerit system coming online, the rehabilitation program coming into effect, and then also the establishment of 20 AARTO self-service kiosks. Now, if you as a company do not implement your AARTO policies and procedures and your new systems now before, or start with that process now, and you're ready before the 1st of July, you will not be ready for the AARTO demerit system, and your proxy will then be at risk of having demerit points added to his license. So it is really essential that you start preparing for AARTO now already. Okay, so let's look at some of the recommended actions that you need to take. The first one is to ensure that your drivers and employees, fleet operators, any administrators that deals with your traffic fines on a day-to-day basis, that they are properly trained. We have trained quite a large number of drivers and employees of companies, and I can really tell you that a lot of drivers didn't even know or were aware of AARTO and the effect and consequences AARTO and non-compliance will have on them personally. So it is really important that you make sure that your drivers understand what AARTO is about, because if they don't, they can obviously lose their positions within the company. So that is really important. The next is to organize disciplinary proceedings when demerits are received by a driver. And then you also need to link your AARTO policy and procedure to that disciplinary code and practices. Now, as part of the one course, the HR course that we have, we provide you with a template AARTO policy and procedure that you will be able to download in Word format and adjust it to your own company. It's a great starting point to implement AARTO, and it gives you that base of exactly what you need to implement and some of the recommended disciplinary actions that you can take. But it is available as part of the courses, and you can download it and edit it and adjust it to your company. Then you would also need to include specific compliance obligations for drivers in their employment contracts. So that would be for existing drivers. You would need to add addendums to their contracts as well as new drivers. You also need to implement a point monitoring system for your fleet operators and drivers. Now, again, here, if you do not monitor your driver's points, you will not know when a driver has a suspended license. And if that driver is in an accident with your vehicle, the insurance will not pay out the claim. Now, it's important to know that a driver can not only receive fines with your vehicles, most drivers do have their own personal vehicles as well. So there might be a well-behaved driver once they drive or when they drive your vehicle, and they might not receive any fines, but as soon as they basically get into their own personal vehicle, it's a different story. So, even if you have a well-behaved driver, you still need to monitor their points because they might not be a well-behaved driver with their own personal vehicle. Okay. Then you also need to implement a fine management and nomination system. Remember that if you do not nominate the fines to the responsible driver while they are in that first notice, the points will be allocated to your proxy, and your proxy will then be at risk of having a suspended license or a cancelled license if they have more than 3 suspensions. So it is very important to implement a fine management and a nomination system. You also need to implement a proper logbook system, so you can indicate who the driver was of a vehicle at a specific time and date. Now, if you don't have, if your vehicles are not allocated to specific drivers and it's only the one driver driving that vehicle at all times, it is very important to have that logbook system, because some companies do have multiple people driving the same vehicle in one day. So you need to be able to specify the date as well as the time that the driver was driving the vehicle, not only the date. The time is very important as well. Then you need to keep records of drivers on file for a minimum of 5 years. Now, here I also want to make sure that you know that the copies that you keep are clear copies where you can see the photo and the ID number and the name and surname clearly. The RTIA that deals with the nomination, the AARTO back office, will not nominate the fine if the copy of the ID is unclear or unreadable. So this includes the photo that's on the ID, as well as the barcode and the ID number and the name, surname. So the whole ID needs to be clear. If the ID number and the name and surname is clear, but the photo is unclear, those will not accept it. Okay. Then your nomination will fail. And if you do not monitor your fines, then the points will be allocated to your proxy. Okay, so I'm just going to shortly discuss the 2 courses that we offer, and you're more than welcome after this to ask me any questions or to contact me if you're interested in our courses. So we do offer 2 courses in AARTO. Both of them are available on our e-learning platform. So a person will get just to quickly explain that to you, for those who are new to e-learning, they will get a username and a password where they will log in to our online system, and they will do the training online. The training consists of various modules, that is videos that needs to be watched, and then after every video, there is a graded questionnaire that the employee would have to complete and at least get a minimum of 70% to pass and then move on to the next module. Now, the first course that we have is the Understanding AARTO HR and Manager course. And this is specifically, like it says, for HR and managers, as well as any administrative staff that deals with your traffic fines. They would need to, or we would recommend that they do this course, as it explains the statuses of the adjudication process, how the days work in between each status, what you can do on each status, all of that information. Together with this course, you also then get the AARTO policy and procedure document that you can then download and edit and make it fit to your own company. We also have updated the course recently, so we do, as part of this course, there is a module where we actually take you through the whole phased implementation process, and we demonstrate the new online AARTO system for you in the application. So we show you how you can register as a company and actually manage your fines on the system. It is a fantastic system. If you haven't seen it and you do the course, you will really like it, because you will be able to, on this one system, access all your fines on a national level. And I think that is going to make managing fines for companies so much more easier. So that is included in that course. Then we've developed the Understanding AARTO driver training course. And this course is specifically designed as a tool for companies to train their drivers. So, to make sure that once you implement your policies and procedures, you can train your drivers effectively and know that they understand exactly what is required of them, what the consequences are. We also cover in this course for them how they can monitor their own points, the forms that they need to sign for the company to monitor their points, and the consequences if they do have a suspended license, what that could mean for them within the company. Okay, it's also available via e-learning. I just want to mention as well for you that we have had a couple of companies ask us if the courses are available in other languages like Xhosa and Zulu. If we do, or we are busy with that, so it will be available shortly. But if you do have that specific requirement, we can very quickly finish that project and have that available in other languages if that is a concern for you. Okay, and that is it from my side. I see there's a couple of questions. I'm just going to move over to the chat quickly and answer the questions in the chat, and then if anybody else has any questions. Okay.
Hi, Lisa. Voice the questions?
Yes, you can.
Hi, this is Caesar. I'm calling from Johannesburg.
Hi, Caesar.
Hi. I'll be quick.
Okay.
One of the reasons AARTO has lagged behind is that a normal person receiving that traffic fine has all the difficulties with the South African Postal Services and the lot.
Yes.
Where is that going? Where digital is going? At some point, there was an e-postal service where you receive what would be a postal service letter by way of email. How is that coming along? And just so I only take one spot, what's the difference between the two courses in that if I take the one, do I need to take the other? Because I'm responsible for traffic fines, vehicles at work, but then again, I also want to be able to train my drivers. Can I take both, or the second part, the second course, is somewhat embedded in the first one, if there isn't a difference between the two?
Okay, not a problem. Okay, Caesar, when it comes to the electronic fines, they are, like I said, they do have the new system where you as an individual or a company will be able to go and register. It's almost like Pay City and Pay My Fines, except it's for AARTO and it works on a national level. So all AARTO fines will be available on the system, and you will then be notified every time you receive a fine. And that system is available on any, on the internet, on your laptop or computer, or you can also have it as a downloadable app that you will be able to download onto your cell phone, and it will obviously use push notifications to inform you once there is a new fine. So that has already been developed. It will be gazetted later this year that AARTO fines will be that they can use the electronic medium as well to deliver the fines. So that will definitely be a solution to that problem of where AARTO fines are not received via the postal service, because we know that that was definitely not working at all. So the system is great, and the system is covered. How to use it and how to go and register is covered in the course material. When it comes to the courses, yes, I would recommend that you only do the first course, the HR and manager, as a lot of the second course, it is kind of embedded. The driver's course is just more aimed at the driver specifically. So, but all the information is covered in the first course as well. With the driver course, we just basically left out what the company needs to implement and what HR needs to implement and those type of things. We aim it more at the driver specifically, but you don't have to do both courses. The information in the second course is all contained in the HR and admin course, so you can only do that one. Does that answer your question?
That answers my question, thanks. Some are very specific, like BEE and getting onto your vendor list that we won't discuss on here, but just in closing, is the course live, or it's a portal that you access and you do it at your own pace, and more or less how long does it takes?
Okay, so yes, the course is on a portal and you can do it within your own time, so you don't have to start and do the course live or register for a specific date and time. You do get access to the system or to the course material for 6 months. So that does give you a lot of time to go and refresh yourself as well. But you log in and you can start at any time. If you do the full course, I would say if you do start to end and you only watch a video once before doing the questionnaire, it should take you about 2.5 to 3 hours to complete the training. But it all depends on the user at the end of the day. If you're someone like me, I like to go and watch a video 2 or 3 times to make sure that I understand everything, because there's a lot of information packed into each module video. So it all depends on you. But like I say, the system remembers your progress. So if you stop halfway through a video and you log out to go to another meeting, then you obviously will be able to log back in and start off exactly where you've left off.
Fair enough. Thanks, Liesl.
Okay. Lawrence, I see you asked a question, how long does the suspension last? The suspension lasts, it depends on how many points you go over your 15 points. So it basically, that is what it depends on. It's 3 months for every point that you go over 15 points. So if it's 16 points, it's 3 months. If it is 70 points, it's 6 months. And then so that is how long it lasts. I hope that answers your question. Then Marius also asked a question, is it possible that a driver will go over his demerit points and his license can be cancelled? What is the opinion of companies as to changing a job requirements to make a valid license into demerit guidelines a prerequisite? How are other companies handling this to enforce this? Okay, so yes, this is really where your policy and procedure will come in, and you can make it a prerequisite for when you appoint somebody that they do have a valid driver's license. But you will also, once they start working for you, have your policy and procedure in place where they actually provide you then with the AARTO 27 signed form, and you then monitor their points on a monthly or daily basis to make sure that their license stays valid. When it comes into your disciplinary procedure, if somebody has, that depends on your company, how they want to deal with it. But, most companies will, if a person receives demerit points or they do have a suspended license, there will always be written, complaints and steps that they can follow to make sure that you don't sit with a driver at the end of the day that cannot fulfill his duties. So that is why your policy, procedure, and your disciplinary code is so important to implement before the AARTO demerit point system comes into effect. Okay. Marius, just let me know if I answered your question or if you have any further questions. Then Irma asks, under which section does this training fall? I don't know what you mean with that, but I would suggest that it falls under anybody that has a driver's license need to do the training, if I can put it that way. So if you do have a fleet, your fleet managers, your fleet administrators, anybody that deals with your traffic fines as well. Does anybody have any other questions?
Lizelle, if I may, one last one. Is there a certificate of completion of you qualify? Why am I asking? Now you have a coordinator who's managing the vehicles and he drops the ball and he says, well, I didn't understand this and that. Can I use the successful completion of the course as this was training, so you actually did drop the ball, it's on your part?
Yes, since we do, once the person has completed the training, they will get a certificate of completion. And as I said, when it comes to the questionnaires, after each module, there is a graded questionnaire. And that person needs to, and they can take the questionnaire a couple of times. So if they, do fail it the first time, they can retake the actual questionnaire. But they need to get a minimum, if it's a driver, there's a minimum of 60% pass rate. So you have to get 60% to be able to continue on to the next section. So if there is something that the person doesn't understand, they can go and re-watch the video and retake the questionnaire. But we have those measures in place to make sure that the driver and the person actually understands the information that they have learned, and they will be able to only, get that certificate on completion.
Thank you.
You can then keep on file as proof that you have trained that person. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Irma. I'm glad you enjoyed the session. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Abdullah asked, companies will have to have a quarterly compliance process, perhaps someone with an app. I will look into that for you, Abdullah. But yes, you would have to have a process implemented and ensure that you are following the correct steps with your compliance. The great thing, or what we offer our students, just to let you know as well, as part of the course, once you have done the course with us, any updates on AARTO, if there's a specific update or change of AARTO, all our students will be informed of that. And we will also, if there are major changes, we will offer refresher courses at a reduced rate. But like I said, companies do get access to the material. As a student, you do get access to the material for a couple of months. So you will be able to refresh yourself in that. Okay, then Irma, I hope that answers your question. Let me know if you have any other questions. Irma, once you have completed the course, can you go back as often as you need to go through it again? Irma, like I said, we do limit it to 6 months, but you can request access after that if you need more time to finish the course. We kind of limit the access to the training to make sure that employees go and finish the course, in due time, that they do not take a year to complete a course that should take them 3 or 4 hours. So we do limit the access, but if you do need further access or after that, you can contact me and we can discuss that. But it is not, it's not an option that we just take away. We basically limit it to assist companies with that. Any other questions?
Not a question, but just a comment. I think it sounds like not that serious, but it's a very serious thing for companies because, transportation forms an integral part of their supply chain network.
Yes.
This type of compliance will obviously bring better drivers on the road because we've had a lot of recklessness on South African roads, without a doubt. Everybody breaking the rules and the law. But I think, it's going to have a positive impact, but probably a negative impact as well in terms of how quickly a supply chain can react to urgencies. Because if you're controlled by, speed limits and that type of thing, you do sit with some challenges. So it'll be good to see how this will affect overall, the transportation business as well as the economy, and see whether we have the efficiencies in the AARTO system to do what it says it will be doing.
Yes, Abdullah, I do agree. I think, there's going to be negatives and positives. I think a lot of people are focusing a lot on the negatives. I look at the positives. I feel that there's so many, if you have dealt with traffic fine management, understanding how difficult it is to manage your fines, and you have to go to this website and to that website and to this agency just to get a list of your fines together. That already is an absolute nightmare. So to be able to access all your traffic fines on one system nationally, that already saves companies a lot of time. And if you implement the correct processes, you should be able to manage it effectively and not to have any problems, but you need to monitor your drivers. So there are going to be a lot of positives and negatives. I think there's going to be a lot of teething problems at the beginning, with everybody going over. But I think at the end of the day, it can be a big positive, and it is going to affect our how everybody drives around and the safety on the roads. That is ultimately what we all hope it will do, and make it hopefully easier for companies to manage their fines. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat. Is there anybody that wants to talk or ask something or mention something before we end off?
I would like to say thank you for this sensitization. Very, very important business, because you only kind of pay attention after it's been implemented, and then it's too late. So yes. Thank you for that. And I think it's been well presented. Thank you very much for this good presentation.
Thanks, Abdullah. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's a pleasure. Thanks, Valentia. Okay. Well, then I'm going to end it off. We do, if you are interested, we do have another session or a different session on Thursday, where we specifically are going to look at moving your training as a company online onto your own e-learning academy, if you can put it that way, for your internal training and any other training that you need. So if you guys are interested in joining that one on Thursday morning at 11, you can just go to the Upskill Academy LinkedIn page and you can just join the event there if you are interested. But thank you everybody for attending. I will be sending all of you through to everybody our price list for our courses, so you can have a look at that if you're interested in the training. And I will also send you a link to the replay if you want to watch the training session again. So thank you for attending. If you have any questions about the courses or something that you think of afterwards, you're welcome to message me on LinkedIn, or I will also send you on LinkedIn my email address and telephone number if you do have any questions. But thank you so much for attending, and I look forward to speaking to some of you afterwards. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Liesl. Have a good one.
Thanks, Caesar. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, Valencia. Thank you.
Bye-bye.